Silent Hill F has released officially, and Pirate Nation made a post that I don't necessarily agree with, and I'll explain why. Um, so Pirate Nation says Silent Hill F peaked at only 22,000 players this weekend. What happened, right? So kind of implying that this is bad numbers, that this is not normal, I suppose. But the reason why I don't agree with this is because it is normal. Like it is normal as much, and it doesn't mean that by being normal that it's a good thing, because it's not. Like the numbers are still bad, just like most Silent Hill numbers have been bad, especially over the last 10 fucking years. 22,000 is not actually a bad number when you consider the nicheness of this particular game. And again, I've criticized Silent Hill F and its performance, but I gotta keep it real with you. You know, this is not a terrible number. It's not a great number. They definitely should get more. Silent Hill should get more, but sadly the franchise has fallen off so hard that it's really not gonna get more. It's so niche at this point that I really don't see how this number is necessarily like a super bad thing, right? So again, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is Silent Hill F. Let me go over to SteamDB and give you just a better idea. That's his screenshot. So again, he's trying to imply that this is a bad thing. 22,621 is the all-time peak yesterday. Okay, for Silent Hill F. If you guys want to see exactly how normal this is for a Silent Hill game, I'll give you an example. Let's look at the most recent one that we have. Silent Hill 2 from Blooper Team, right? Just came out not that long ago. Nearly identical. Nearly identical. If anything, it's slightly worse. 23,676 all-time peak, right? Nearly identical. So this is why I say, like, is it a bad thing? Not really. Is it a great thing? Not really. It's a Silent Hill thing. That's basically it. Silent Hill is not Resident Evil. And I hope that people are smart enough to understand that Silent Hill has never been anywhere near the level of success that Resident Evil has garnered in terms of player counts and copies sold and everything like that. It never has been. It's always been more of a niche a horror game, and unfortunately the franchise fell off big time after the last few entries. So this one in particular, Silent Hill F, being one of those games that is obviously more of a, dare I even say, a spin-off. Like I wouldn't really call it like a, it's not an actual entry to Silent Hill franchise in terms of numerical entry. It is a spin-off, right? But even for a spinoff, it's doing almost near identical. It's doing near identical numbers to a numerical entry remake, right? So Silent Hill 2 did 23,000. Silent Hill F did 22,000. These numbers make sense, and they're not like Silent Hill F was never going to be a 100,000 plus concurrent player game. It's just not. It's not happening. It's not, I'm sorry, it's not happening for a Silent Hill game. So you can imply that that's terrible. You can imply that that's awful, but I'm just going to call it normal. Personally, I'm going to call it normal, and I'm going to call it pretty much on brand for a Silent Hill game. If you want another example of something similar, right? And just like, and again, keep in mind, for horror games, this is pretty normal. Let me give you another example, right? Look at Chronos. I'm thoroughly enjoying Chronos. I think Chronos is a really good game. Okay, I'm about to finish it pretty soon. But if you look at Chronos, it only got to 5,295. 5,295 all-time peak. You know what I mean? And it's actually a really good game. So it really, like, I'm telling you, man, when it comes to horror games, you can't be going into this with the mindset of like, oh, if it's not doing 100,000, it's not winning. It's like, guys, horror games tend to sell over time when the game is put on massive discount. because not many people are going out there to play horror games on day one. It's just not that kind of a game. It's just not that kind of a franchise. And if it is, it's most likely going to be a Resident Evil game. A Resident Evil game are that's the franchise. That's the quote unquote horror game. That's the one that's going to do big numbers on day one. But pretty much almost everything else is not really going to do that. Right. So, and again, I'm not saying these are good numbers because they're not. Right. Chronos hitting 5,200 is not a good number. I was really hoping that the game would do 10 to 15,000, maybe 20,000. You know what I mean? But it's not going to do good numbers. I'm curious what Dead Space did. What did Dead Space do? Let me see. Dead Space. This is pretty good, but Dead Space also had good word of mouth for a long period of time. So when they came out with this particular remake of Dead Space, it doing 30,000, it already had an established fan base over many years. Over many years, it had an established fan base. So this makes sense. Dead Space doing 30,000 makes sense. And that's with a long history of fans over many years. What about Dead Space 2, out of curiosity? Look at this. Dead Space 2, 14 years ago, 2,400. You know what I mean? Like, these games do not... Look, Dead Space 3, 1,100. You know what I mean? What about the OG? The OG, I don't think is going to do... Can you even get the OG? Can you get the OG on Steam anymore? Yeah, right here. Dead Space 2008. 2,300. You know? So, again, these games, these horror games, they don't hit like that. They don't hit like that. They have to get many years of cheap pricing, you know, being sold at $4. That's what it has to be, you know? Joker says Dead Space 3 was Origin exclusive. Yeah, for a little while. That don't mean a fucking thing, bro. With all due respect, that don't mean anything. Because it could be Origin exclusive. That just means it's sold even less than what we're seeing here on Steam. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So what about Calisto Protocol? I bet you this shit didn't do very well. 7, that's actually not bad. But again, it's right in the same realm. It's right in the same realm. 17,580. Right? So almost 18,000 for the Calisto Protocol. It's right in the same ballpark. All these games are always being in the same ballpark. 15,000, 20,000, 25, 30 at the highest. Like, unless it's a Resident Evil game. Let's see. Is Resident Evil doing any better? Let's see. Let's go to what was the big one? Resident Evil I guess 2 was a pretty big remake. Look at the difference. 74,000. 74,000. This is like you guys gotta, I'm telling you, man, Resident Evil is on a whole different level. Look at this. Resident Evil 4, 168,000. Resident Evil is the only one that goes into the normie number level. Otherwise, for other horror games, it's not gonna happen usually. Right? 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna happen. So that's why when I see these posts and they try to imply that, you know, XYZ game is you know, bad because of, you know, the numbers are doing bad or whatever, like they're like, what happened? Like, what do you mean what happened? What happened is what always happens, which is these horror games 9 times out of 10 are not, they're just not gonna work. Joker says you are comparing console eras to today, though. What are we talking about? I'm looking at Steam numbers all across the board. What are we talking about? I don't get it. I'm looking at modern horror games. Like, this is the Resident Evil 4 remake on Steam, and I'm comparing it to other horror games on Steam. Where did consoles come into play? I'm confused. Violent City says, well, console for Resident Evil will still blow them out. You would think so. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. Because when it comes to Capcom has openly admitted that PC is their main market now. A small majority of their sales is on PC, meaning about 55% of all of their sales come from the PC platform now. They are now majority PC platform, which is crazy considering Capcom's legacy. You know? So we shall see. Joker says those days most players were on console. PC grew a lot after COVID. Yeah, that's fine. But that's why I'm looking at the modern horror games now and comparing them to the modern remakes. Again, my point still stands, right? So if I'm looking at horror games, I'm not talking about Dead Space. Forget Dead Space. I'm not worried about that. I'm looking at the modern horror games, right? Modern non-Resident Evil horror games are in the 15 to 20,000 ballpark figure for concurrent players almost every single time. Unless it's a Resident Evil game, then those games are the ones that hit the normie numbers. Those are the ones that hit 70,000, 80,000, 100,000, 150,000. Like those are the ones that do it. It's not really anything else, you know? So that's why, like, when people look at these modern horror games that aren't Resident Evil and they say, you know, well, why is it not hitting XYZ numbers? And it's because they almost never do. You know, it's like a false equivalency, you know? So, but in any case, that's where we're at with Resident Evil F. And, I'm sorry, Resident Evil F. Oh my God, Silent Hill F. That's where we're at with Silent Hill F. I don't think the numbers are going to get much higher, to be honest with you. And I'm sure people are going to try to cope and lie and say, well, maybe the console numbers are higher. Like, not really. They're not. They're just not. Somebody said check me side. Sure. Let's see me side. What's me side doing? Again, my God, it's so consistent. It is literally so consistent, bro. 23,741. And this game, when it first came out, was super popular. People were talking about it like crazy. 23,741 concurrent players. So again, guys, the genre is just not, it's not built like that, right? Most horror games are going to fall into the same category, whereas Resident Evil is transcended past that. Resident Evil has transcended past the limitations of the horror genre, which is normally around like 20,000, 25,000. You know? So in any case, people saying check Soma. I mean, we could check every single fucking game. Soma came out a while ago, though. It's 10 years ago. It's really old. Alien Isolation. This game got popular over time, but its concurrent player base was only 11,000 5 years ago. But I guarantee you, I was going to say, I guarantee you this thing sold millions of copies because it was put on sale so many times. Bro, this game was as cheap as $2. $2 fucking dollars, guys. $2, right? So this is what happens with horror games. Horror games end up building a fan base over a long period of time through whoring themselves out because they're not video games that usually sell on day one in a mass amount. They're just not. That's just not the kind of games that they are. So over time, they get whored out, and then they end up building a fan base, and then hopefully, if they release a sequel, it'll do a higher number at retail price. But usually it doesn't happen. Exactly. $2 game, that's going to sell. Yeah, who the fuck is going to turn down a $2 game? Like almost nobody's going to turn that down. So in any case, that's what I wanted to say about Silent Hill F, because again, I've had my criticisms about Silent Hill F, but that doesn't mean we're going to lie about the numbers. Like, the numbers are the numbers, and they're that way for a reason. And, you know, I don't think anybody expected anything otherwise, to be honest with you. So let's continue. Let me X that out really quick. Asura says, I wouldn't buy Veilguard for $2. I wouldn't buy Veilguard. Turtle says, why don't you like Silent Hill? I didn't say I don't like it. I said I have criticisms about it in its performance and whatnot, but I never said I'd like it. I'm going to be reviewing the game myself after I'm done with Chronos. I'm almost done with Chronos: A New Dawn, and I'll be moving on to Silent Hill F. That'll be the next game that I'm going to be reviewing. So should be pretty exciting. Check Tales of the Shire. Oh my God. This game is doing terrible. They already have it on sale for 20% off, by the way. Tales of the Shire is on sale for 20% off already, and this shit just came out. You know, it's crazy. 380 people playing right now, 6,700 all-time peak, and it is on sale for 20% off already. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. Great job. Great job to well, you know who anyway. After 1 month, less than 1 month, I think, right? Something like that.